Hey everybody, today we're looking at a pretty cool guitar. It's a Charvel Dimas Pro Mod 2016 model. I bought this not long ago and I never had the opportunity to actually do a review on this guitar. So I figured now would be a good time for any of you out there considering buying this guitar and not getting confused by what this guitar offers and what, say, a Fender Strat offers. They're very different guitars, yet they look a little bit similar. Now there's a lot of features that I'm going to go over in this video, and this video is going to be just talking. If you want to hear this guitar in action, I did a video using it not long ago for a Providence Heat Blaster pedal, and you can hear it with a little distortion, and it's a really nice guitar for that. A lot of people get this guitar confused with Strats, especially now that Fender has been offering their Strats with different pickup configurations with, you know, a humbucker and 2 single coils and whatnot. And the fact that it looks like a Strat, has a neck profile as a Strat and whatnot, you know, people confuse it. They think they're buying a Strat, but it's not really that. It really is offering you a lot of other features that are not obvious to the naked eye. So I wanted to take the opportunity to go over it with you, and so you don't get confused and you know exactly what you're buying. The older guys out there that have been around in the 80s through the big hair metal era, you know this guitar. You're familiar with it. A lot of bands back then were using this guitar. The metal bands loved them. The Floyd Roses were very popular back then. So, you know, Charvel has been making these type of guitars for a long time, and it's really kind of a specific target audience that they're trying to aim for. I mean, you're not necessarily going to use a guitar like this if you're playing jazz. You could, but it wouldn't be the best choice, in my opinion. For those of you who like Fenders, it also is not the same. I mean, it's basically hot-rodded. It has some features here that Fender still doesn't offer. So let's go over it and let's break it down. First of all, we'll go over the aesthetics. It has a black burst with purple in the middle, and it's a quilt finish on the top. The actual body is made of alder, not extremely heavy. The body shape is typical Fender style. It's got the armrest here and the tummy tuck in the back. It also has the plates, so you have the plate here for the tremolo system and the electronics. The heel is a typical square heel. It's not curved or anything fancy like that. It's pretty plain Jane in terms of body finish. The body itself has no pick guard. For those of you who play relatively rough with your guitars, you might nick the finish. You might not like that. There are other Charvels out there that do offer a pick guard. This one does not. It does have 2 knobs and a 3-way. But there's a lot more than meets the eye with this, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll come back to that section. The neck on the guitar is maple. As you can tell, it's quite light in color. And some of you might be thrown off with that a little bit. And it seems almost like the neck is not finished. It actually is finished in a urethane, a very light urethane that's been hand rubbed. So if you like that kind of raw wood feel, this neck really does it. It really feels soft. Doesn't feel sticky at all with the finish, the urethane and whatnot, especially when it gets humid or sticky. Now, you might get worried a little bit because it is a light finished wood. It might get dirty. The urethane will protect it, but of course dirt will show up more than it will on a rosewood neck, say. So you have to be aware of that. The neck is a lot thinner than a Strat. If I had to describe it, I would say it's in between a thin C from a Fender Strat and an Ibanez. Let's say if you compare this to, let's say, a Gem Junior, it's thicker than a Gem Junior, and the C shape from a Strat is a little thinner than that. So it fits very nicely in your hands. It feels wonderful. If you guys do like the thicker feeling neck, well then you might not like this one. If you like the super thin wizard necks, you might not like this one. But if you're somewhere in between, this is a good compromise. I think that's exactly what Charvel was aiming to do, was going to that middle demographics, not the extreme thin, not the extreme thick, but somewhere in between. And I think it's a good choice. It might take a little bit of time for you to get used to it, but once you're used to it, it really is a nice playing neck. The other things that make this neck different is that it does have rolled frets on it, which is really nice to see. There's no sharp edges whatsoever on the neck. It feels like a neck that's been broken in for quite a while. The frets themselves are jumbo frets, which also make it quite nice to play. And the other thing about this neck that's not obvious is the radius. It has a compound radius. And what does that mean? It means that the neck is 12 inches, it uses a 12-inch radius at the nut. And when you go down the fretboard, it becomes a 16-inch radius. So that means it's rounder here and it's flatter towards the end, which means that it's easier to chord and play chords up here if you're playing open chords and whatnot. And by the time you get up here, if you're playing leads or runs, it becomes a lot easier to bend and to play quickly. So it has the best of both worlds. I think it's a good way of building necks these days. I think it's quite a nice feature to have because it does give you the option of the best of both worlds. Now, beyond that, the neck also is made of two pieces. So the top fretboard layer is glued to the back. There's no skunk stripe in the back, you'll notice that. And that's the reason for it, because the actual truss rod is inserted through the top. The truss rod adjustment, which used to be up here and was quite cluttered because you do have the locking tremolo here and the T-bar here, and to actually access this hex up here was quite cluttered. So they improved it by putting a truss rod wheel down here. And a lot of other guitars have been doing the same thing. If you look at Fenders, for example, their new models also have that. A lot of other models like Music Man had that. And I think it's a better place to put it when you're looking at a guitar that has a tremolo on it. So that's a nice improvement. Other than that, I think the neck itself, there's not much else I can tell you. Easy to play, easy to bend. It's a really nice sounding neck. Now, the other thing on the neck, which is kind of secondary, but I thought I'd mention it anyways, is that the headstock is shaped like a Fender. The tuning keys here are typical tuning keys, nothing really crazy. They're chromed, black chrome. I mean, once you have a locking nut on it, they become kind of secondary. But I mean, they work well. The finish, which is a black chrome, some people do like that. I think that you have to keep in mind that the black chrome, anything that's chrome plated, other than chrome itself, will eventually tarnish quicker. The black chrome will eventually tarnish as well. Gold is usually the worst. It tarnishes a lot quicker. So let's look at the electronics on this guitar, because that's where a lot of the magic happens. Now, you have two humbucker pickups in the guitar. You have a 59 in the neck and a JB in the bridge. It's a combination that's been used quite a lot on a lot of guitars. The JB is a lot hotter than the 59 in terms of output, so it does give you a little bit more signal, a little bit more punch, so to speak. So that's a really nice match for this type of guitar. For those of you who don't like that type of pickup configuration, you can surely change them out and put whatever you like in them. But you have to keep in mind that the guitar is made in such a way where the pickups are actually drilled onto the body. You can see that there's actually a hole that you can see the screw in there. And what they do is they take the pickup and they put it into the body and screw it directly into the body instead of actually screwing it to a pick guard. What that does is it gives the guitar more resonance. It's more of a direct contact with the body. And the disadvantage with that, though, is that you can't really lower the pickup, especially if it's all the way down already. And for those of you who want to swap out pickups and put something, say, from a Gibson Les Paul typically have longer pickup legs. And what ends up happening is if you put them in here, they'll be too close to the strings. Also, these pickups are fender spaced, which means that the actual magnets are spaced for the string spacing on a Fender and a Charvel. Gibson pickups are not the same. They don't have the same spacing. So if you swap them, it's not going to actually work 100%. Some people do it anyway, but it's not perfect. So the thing that makes these pickup magic is that Charvel has decided to give you more flexibility. You see that there's only a three-way switch, so you figure it would be, neck, both neck and bridge, but it's not. The way it's been made is that you have the neck pickup here. When you have the middle combination, it actually splits the pickups, and then when you have the bridge, you have the normal bridge. But the volume knob is a push-pull. So when you pull it out, when you're in the bridge, now it's a split bridge. When you're in the middle position, it's still split, but it splits the opposite coils. And when it's in the neck position, it's split again. So you really do have 6 different pickup combinations with a three-way switch, which is quite cool, right? So I mean, there's a lot more that you can actually use in terms of usable tones than just a three-way. Now there's more. They've also made something different with the tone knob here. The tone knob, when it's all the way on 10, is actually out of the circuit. So you can actually feel it when you turn it. When it gets to about 10, there's sort of like a little click in there, and it's removed from the circuit, which means that you have less resistance, you have a more direct tone, a little bit of a brighter tone, which is quite cool. It doesn't make a huge difference, but you will hear it. And it's something else, it's something extra that they're offering you in terms of a little bit more flexible tone to use. Right, so now let's look at the Floyd. The Floyd Rose is a typical Floyd. It says Floyd Rose on it. I believe it's made by Floyd Rose. It could have been licensed by Floyd, but it doesn't say licensed by Floyd. So I'm assuming that it's a real Floyd. The Floyd Rose is a floating Floyd in the sense that it has a cutout in the back of it. You can dive bomb it. You can pull it up. You can do the gurgles. And it stays in tune. Very pleasantly surprised by that, because a lot of Floyds that are cheaper tend to have tuning stability issues. This one does not. And I like the fact that it is notched, because I do like to be able to pull up as well as dive bomb. And it does give you a little bit more flexibility there. One thing that does bother me a little bit is the type of arm that they've put in. So the arm is, it's typical. I mean, it's a Floyd, and it has a little nut that you can use to tighten it and put it into the actual hole here. The problem with it is that when you do tighten it, if it's not tightened all the way and you use it, you're going to hear like a little, you might hear some noise, right? If you tighten it all the way so that you don't hear the noise, it doesn't move. I mean, it moves, but it's not loose. And if you try and move it around, like, it doesn't just get out of the way, right? So you have to almost like find the sweet spot. You know what I mean? There are some Floyd Roses that have managed to get rid of this little thing here, and so that it goes in, it stays loose, but there's no jiggle. That's the only, listen, that's the thing that bothers me. Now you can, I mean, it's not a big thing. You can just get used to that, but to me, it would have been nicer if they would have fixed that so that when it's loose, you know, it still gets out of the way and doesn't jiggle. But whatever. That's a small price to pay for a great guitar. The strap locks on the guitar are thicker or wider than normal, and here you can see that. So when you put your strap in there, it does actually, you know, stay very nicely in place. You don't need strap locks. Both of them are the same. The input jack, typical input jack, nothing too crazy there. The neck pockets on the guitar are done very, very tight. There's no spacing at all. the actual fit and finish of the guitar is flawless. I didn't find any issues in terms of, you know, finish issues on the paint. Very nice overall guitar for the money. I think it's a great guitar. Nice color you can see there. You can see the fretboard, you can see the headstock. Overall, super guitar for the money. So what more can I say about this guitar? It's a very well put together instrument for a little bit over $1,000. You really can't go wrong. You have a lot of great features built in, a lot of great value. The fit and finish is perfect. And for those of you looking at maybe, you know, getting something a little bit more than what a Strat can offer, you can definitely do this. Great for those gigs where you're playing the big hair metal. And if you're not playing hair metal, you can still get a lot of flexible tones, a lot of variation out of this guitar, which is always welcome. Check it out at your local store. Let me know what you think. If you agree with what I've said, if you don't agree, leave your comments below. We can always discuss that. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. Stay tuned and keep rocking.